Hi everyone, this is Gary Bowers. I'm with Williamson County Chapter of the Native Plant Society of Texas. We'll be starting here shortly with Randy and Amy. Right now, all of the attendees are in listen-only mode. That means no one can hear you and no one will be able to see your camera, so we can't watch you. We'll give folks just about 2 minutes to join. We've got about 45 registrants and there are about 30 people who are attending at the moment. So we'll kind of get started here in about a few minutes. While we do that, Randy, can you talk a little bit about, do we still have activities that are going on related to some of our community gardens? Are folks keeping those maintained?
Very minimal. I know Beth has been going out to the Nest Garden and checking on that, make sure the watering's okay and doing some weeding. And then also out at Spirit Rains, we had put in a bunch of plants this spring early April, I think it was, maybe into March, sometime in March. Anyway, she's also been checking on those and did get some drip irrigation installed in the bed that gets the worst wind and it's less protected, so it needs a lot of water. And then the other one needs some plumbing work done. So
okay,
not much else than that going on. And also Berry Springs out there, we had put in, I think in February, a bunch of plantings and to restore some habitat, and she has been checking on that as well.
Okay.
So Beth's been busy.
Beth has been busy.
I've been bugging her, so I've been busy bugging her.
I thought about that today because I had put in a bunch of cowpen daisies at the same time we put those in at Nest, and they had these humongous, beautiful bullies that kind of took over the garden. Mine never really did that.
Yeah.
These little puny ones now, but they did come back.
Yeah, mine are. Yeah, I put some in also, and they're about 6 inches tall, but much later than we did.
Okay. All right, we're at about 7:05, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. For those of you that have joined, the way that we do our chapter meetings is we'll do a short business presentation, which will probably be very short because we've all been working from home or sitting at home watching Netflix or whatever it is that you've been doing while you've been at home. And then we'll hand it over to Amy, who is going to talk to us about how to virtually engage with nature. So some of the programs that the Texas Parks and Wildlife have, she'll be talking us through that. So what I'll do now is I'll hand it over to Randy and I will stop talking.
Okay, well, here we go. Welcome everyone. I'm Randy Sabine, the president this year of the Native Plant Society of Texas Williamson County Chapter. This is our meeting for May 14th, 2020. We are continuing with our virtual programs until further notice. We're just watching things day by day and week by week like the rest of y'all. In June, we will be having George Cates, as far as I know, but we've sort of been contacting speakers month by month because we don't really know what we're doing until we get closer to the date. So we'll be in contact with George Cates, and it's very likely that would also be as a virtual meeting through GoWebinar. So keep posted. And then on July 9th, we're supposed to do our election. So we will need to get together a board and figure out how to do that, possibly some electronic voting in order for that to occur. And then we're hoping to be back in the library. Currently, the rooms in the library are not even open for meetings. So even if we thought we wanted to come back, we couldn't do that. And we will continue. So we are looking at our officer elections. This is an easy year because most of our officers, the board changed over last year, and they very often go for 2-year terms. 2 years our maximum term. So this will be the second year for the majority of us, and everyone has agreed to continue, except we are in need of a membership coordinator. And this person kind of, helps with incoming. We get announcements from the state as to what people that have signed up for new membership or renewed, and the membership coordinator sends out a welcome letter, whether you're new or renewing. And then they also bring supplies to each chapter meeting, handouts, magazines, etc., brochures. And then they greet everyone at the chapter door. And the most involved thing they do is order member badges. And we have a vendor and a system, and the badges are all designed. And you just need to provide a list of names, and you would then pick up the badges and get them to the various members. We also have not filled a director at large position. This has been open. And this is just an open position. And this person is encouraged to find something they would enjoy doing and do it, and just be part of the board and help provide guidance. And so tonight's plant of the month is the American smoke tree. I hope you've had an opportunity to see one somewhere. This is one that's been limbed up from the bottom because of the walkway and to provide sun for the other plants. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. It's a small tree or a very large shrub. It's an ornamental, blooms in the spring. It blooms for about a month. And those are actually the seed heads you're seeing, not the flowers. The flowers are inconspicuous, and then it makes these beautiful pink clouds of blooms. It also creates color again in the fall with the leaf color changes. So this is just a wonderful low maintenance. And this is once established, thrives on neglect. And believe me, that's the truth. So this is a great one. Tonight, we're thrilled to bring Ecological Mapping Systems from Amie Treuer-Kuehn. She has an MS in biology. She's a plant ecologist with the Texas Park and Wildlife Department. And she's leading the lead ecologist on the landscape ecology program. She also manages several remote sensing and field mapping projects. So thank you very much for coming tonight and speaking with us, Amie.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
All right, Amie, I will hand the baton over to you for the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you should get a request. Yeah, perfect.
Can everybody see it, I hope?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me, everyone, and I hope everybody can hear me. I'll apologize in advance if any of my dogs or teenagers interrupt us. We're all working from home, and I'm sure doing the best we can. Would like to talk to you a little bit about where I work at Parks and Wildlife, the Landscape Ecology Program, and then a little bit about what we do and how we've created some tools for you all to what we call virtually engage with nature and provide some citizen science feedback for us on our mapping efforts. So again, I work with Parks and Wildlife in the Landscape Ecology Program. It is a smaller program within the Wildlife Division at Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'll talk a little bit about our website and how you can access all of the information we have available. And then sort of what we do, which includes our statewide vegetation map, the Texas Ecological Mapping Systems, and then some tools we built for landowners and citizens within the state of Texas called Team and TeamGo. So you can access all of the information about landscape ecology from the TPWD homepage by going to land and then clicking on landscape ecology program. I have all of the websites I'm going to go through available on the last slide of my talk. So if you hold out, I will keep that up while I take questions, and you can write them all down, and I believe Gary's going to share the presentation with you all. So we, with landscape ecology, we are responsible for mostly statewide mapping efforts and doing things like remote sensing analyses for different habitats, mostly for terrestrial habitats. We don't do a lot of aquatic work. Like I said, our bread and butter, sort of our big project, has always been the ecological mapping systems. That's our statewide vegetation data for the whole state of Texas. We do have a large project we're working on now to try to map grassland quality in about 40 counties. So we work big areas, large landscapes. If you want to get to this data on our website, you can simply go there and select any of the links, and there is a bit of information about the program there as well. So what is the Texas Ecological Mapping Systems? Like I said, this is our main project. We work on care and feeding or updating and keeping current this statewide vegetation data map. It is at 10 meters resolution. We currently have about 403 habitat types or ecosystems in there. What we like to do is try to either simplify those or make them more accurate. So it's a big state, so it takes years to update these things. Initially, we ground truthed it with about 14,000 field data points. We now have around 25,000 field data points, including our grassland project. And our accuracy, depending on the habitat type, is somewhere between 74 and 90%. We were able to do things like map invasive woody species on historic prairie soils. So things like ash juniper invading native grasslines or mesquite in native grassland soils. If you are a GIS user, and I know many of you are not, and hang on because the bulk of my talk is not about GIS users, you can download the data or the map by ecoregion. These are extremely large files and take a while, or by raster. Going to our website again, just clicking on the map allows you a download window will pop up. You can also go to our website just to view information about all of these habitat types. We have descriptions for each type. And you click on the habitat types, it will give you the parent system. So we can go over to the central mixed grass prairie. This is a NatureServe parent system. We've mapped several types within that broader ecological system, what we called map types. So we mapped rolling plains, mixed grass prairie, and then a steep sandy version of that. So if you select the individual one, you will get a distribution map, a picture of that type, and a brief description, which includes dominant plant species you should expect to see in that habitat type. So if you're just wanting to learn about what we mapped, this is a great place to start. What we did, though, we thought we could do a lot more with this and make the map sort of interactive and available for you all to use. So for about 4 years now, we've had what we call the Team tool out, which is a Google Maps-based application. Some of you may be seeing at a Master Naturalist meeting or another Native Plant Society meeting. This allows you to view all of that data and create custom vegetation reports either for somewhere you want to go visit or somewhere you've been. We just launched, and I'm hoping y'all will look at this while we're sort of social distancing, is the TeamGo mobile version of Team. We just launched and it's in beta form, but y'all are able to access it and test it and give us feedback on how we can improve it. It's just sort of a scaled down version of the desktop version of Team. You can view the ecological mapping systems data, but it doesn't have any analysis tool. And the other thing we are currently and just finally launched and released is this TeamGo-Ground Truth. It's what we call our citizen science data sharing tool. So this allows anyone to provide feedback on what we mapped and tell us we were wrong. Or right, if you'd like. Most often I get emails about what we mapped wrong, however, which is great because then we can look at where we have errors across the landscape and how we can better map the state. It'll also allow you to save any data you send us, and you can kind of track landscape change if you have a large ranch or a large property that you're managing. And it allows us to store and share information on Texas plant communities. That ground truth is available both in the desktop version and your mobile app. Data entry works best in the mobile app, and I'll go over all this in a couple of videos and more slides. And then viewing your records definitely works better on your laptop or your PC. So if any of you haven't seen a presentation on the Team tool, this is what it looks like when you log into Team. You just get a county map, not very exciting. If you zoom into the upper corner, you have some basic Google tools. You can pan and identify. You can zoom in all of the data layers we have available. You can turn on or off over here. They turn on at different zoom levels, so we'll go over that in the video I have. And then there's the Team Analysis wizard, which allows you to actually create those custom vegetation reports. So I have a short video that'll walk us through. I thought about going live, but usually if I try to do a live demonstration of the app, we run into issues with connectivity. So how to do habitat analysis in Team. Again, if you open the Team tool, you get all of the data layers, and there's instructions there you can click on if you have trouble finding out what you want to look at in Team. If you zoom in, some of those data layers turn on, like the Ecological Mapping System. And you can use the Google Go tool to go anywhere on the map. We're going to go up to Gene Howe Wildlife Management Area. You can drag and drop layers. So in here is a list of all the boundary files for all of the public lands in the state. So you can drag that layer up and see, well, there's Gene Howe. It's got 2 parcels of land. Let's say you want to go visit. You want to see what kind of vegetation is there. You can turn the transparency down on that so you can see the underlying vegetation, but kind of still see how large the property you're visiting is. You can turn on the Surgo Soils database. This is from USDA. And you can use the Identify tool for both the soils and the Ecological Mapping Systems data. And if you click on one of the polygons on the map, it'll give you some information about soils, then a link out to even more information about the underlying soils and the vegetation as well. So we're up in sand prairie country. You can click on the description. It'll give you a written description again of dominant plant species and the soil types. And then a distribution map as well. I apologize, there's no photo in here of this type. I think since I made this video, I've uploaded all of the photos. So there is a tooltip available in here, so you can just scroll over and it highlights different types and tells you what map type that is. But the best part about this is the wizard, which will actually create a custom vegetation report for your property, a property you're visiting. If you're a birder and you have bird points and you want to know what habitat they use, you can buffer those bird points in here. So you have the option to draw a polygon, select one on the map, or upload a KML or shapefile. So if you have Google Earth files, if you have eBird points, all those can be uploaded. We're going to select one and draw one. You can do multiple shapes in here. And then run report. And the first thing you get is an interactive report that you can select on the type, and it highlights that habitat type. So that Gene Howe is mostly high plains sand prairie. It will also tell you how many acres of each map type you have in your study area and what percentage of total that is. If you turn off the ecological systems in the viewer, you can kind of highlight just your study area. And that's the list of map types that occur within Gene Howe. There's a chart of each of the different land cover classifications in the map. So we have not only our map type, but the parent system and general land cover. So if you're just interested in how much shrubland versus grassland occurs there, you can switch the map to view that as well. It gives you a detail of each distinct polygon. That might be useful if you're a land manager and you want to clear a bunch of mesquite. You want to find the area with the most mesquite. And you can print the report. We recommend that you send it to a PDF first and then print it. Google Print can get kind of funky sometimes. So just make sure your map is in the box. Select Print Report. Save it as a PDF in the Google Print window. And you get this really cool custom veg report with all of the different veg types, map charts, and even a list of endangered species that might occur within that county. So a really useful tool if you're going to visit a state park, a new natural area that you haven't visited before. And as I mentioned before, you can even upload points and buffer them. I think these are from West Texas Montezuma quail points that I uploaded and did a brief sort of analysis just to see what habitat they were using. And again, mostly montane grassland. And if you're just going to do a canoe trip of the Trinity River, you want to know what kind of vegetation you might encounter, you can print that report as well. So there's a lot of different options in there. And that's been out again for about 4 years. The TeamGo-Ground Truth tool is just brand new, actually, from about a week ago. We just started launching that for testing. So I have a video on that. The video's a little older, but I have slides from our mobile device after that I'll sort of walk through a little slower for you all. Play. And this was really designed because I would get a lot of emails about areas we've mapped wrong, and they're really hard to keep track of. And I thought if folks really wanted to participate in this, we would build a tool which would make sense for our data needs and also allow them to track it. We ask that you create a user account in here. The user account will be the only way you can actually go back in and see old records that you've entered. It also allows you to set your data to public or private. If you set it to private, only Texas Parks and Wildlife will be allowed to see that information. If you set it to public, anyone can view it, sort of like an iNaturalist. I need to move this. So if you click on the Ground Truth panel, it'll open. And you will have 3 options. You can click a polygon on the map. You can select exactly where you're standing, or you can enter a lat long. So this is sort of what it looks like when you enter the Ground Truth data tool on your PC. It looks a little different on your cell phone or your mobile device. But let's say you work in the field, or this is your property and you know this area, you've been there, you took a picture of it, and it's mapped wrong. So you want to click on that polygon. It'll tell you what type we have it currently mapped as. I know this is hard to read. I have some zoomed in shots of this after the video. Right here it says it's a native invasive mesquite shrubland. Usually should provide a photo and then a distribution of where that map type should occur. So then you have a choice. You can select what you think it is mapped as from all 400 types we have mapped across the state, or look at a 2-kilometer radius and see if you can find that map type. Let's say I was out there, I thought it was a sandy prairie. I'm going to select that. It's going to give me a description of that sandy prairie, including dominant species, land cover. I'm going to go to, I know it's a grassland. I'm going to start looking at the species list. It's going to ask you to select all the dominant species you saw while you were there. I clicked on it, took me to USDA plants. I said, no, that species doesn't occur there. You can go back and actually change your selection. So it's just a regular old rolling plains mixed grass prairie. Again, you get a description, a picture. You want to select a land cover type, and those are just general: grassland, shrubland, forest. and then all the dominant species. So here I selected little blue stem, side oats grama, blue grama, and then the amount of woody cover I'm estimating that I saw when I was out there that's in my photo. It'll also ask you to put any comments. So if I'm managing this property and let's say I burn it, I have an active burn program and it's mapped as mesquite, well, I'm restoring this grassland, so no. I'm going to put active burn program. And the most important thing we require is that you take a photo of where you're standing or what you're looking at. So I uploaded a photo. You can make comments on the photo. I'm going to say this area was burned a year ago and this is what it looks like now. Add a photo. And then it's also going to ask you to comment on the size of the habitat. And we just want to know an estimation. Is it that whole entire polygon or is it 1 acre of that polygon that's mapped wrong? Submit feedback and it goes to us. And then you can log in and actually view all of the feedback submissions you have made. So what we sort of envision this useful for, one, our large landowners, two, our folks that just like to get out in nature and can help us ground truth the state. And then maybe groups that have certain projects, like if they're trying to map native prairies, you can go in, view all of the data submitted by certain groups. So Native Prairie Association, if you put that as your affiliation and you all have a project somewhere that's maybe statewide or within an ecoregion, you could create an affiliation for that, sort all the data entries, and then be able to view all of the submissions for that. So you can click on a data entry. That's the submission we just made. Has the photo, has all the information. This also allows me to sort data by certain areas, allows me to review it and for accuracy. It allows land managers to track changes they've made on their land. And again, it really helps us search for errors in our final mapping products. So that's the PC version. Again, the mobile version, we just launched it and it's a little different. So I'd like to walk you through that as well. I could not do a decent video on my Android phone. So I have screenshots and really the mobile device is where ground truth data or the data input tool is going to be most useful. Nobody's going to carry their laptop out into the field. So again, when you open TeamGo, which is our mobile version of Team, you get just a blank map with the Texas counties. If you look at the bottom, you have some map tools. If you select that, it gives you a group of tools. The first one, you can zoom to a state park or a wildlife management area. You can zoom to a county. I zoomed to Travis County since that's where I'm at. You can zoom to a Google destination. I selected Mansfield Dam, which is near my home. I'm trying to kind of locate where I am. You can also turn on geolocation and it will just go exactly to where you're standing. So again, I still don't have any map layers on. So the whole point is to kind of look at the vegetation data, right? So I go back to map tools, select map layers. I can turn on all of the public made team ground truth observations, and I can turn on the ecological systems. This is basically just for viewing and identification purposes. I turned on, you can see you get a legend of everything in your viewing area. But if you want to go back, select map options again. You want to identify the habitat type you're standing in, select team polygons, click on that polygon where you're standing, and it'll bring up a description and a photo of that type. So today I was over in ash juniper slope forest. But what I really want to do is I want to enter some data. So I'm going to go to the Team Ground Truth, which I have that little panel at the top. You're going to select login. It gives you options. If you're just going to enter one data point, fine, log in as a guest. We really ask so that you register as a user so you can save and look at your data. It's going to ask a series of questions, security questions, create a username and a password. And then the most important one is, do you want your data you're sharing made public or private? If it's public, everyone can see it. If it's private, it will only be shared with Parks and Wildlife just for mapping purposes. We aren't collecting endangered species information. We are collecting general landscape habitat information. So I'm going to log in, and I'm going to go back to resetting my map so I get a clear map. Again, turn on my map layers. I want observations on. I want the systems on. I'm going to go to the TeamGo-Ground Truth panel now that I'm logged in. And up pops that same panel that we had sort of in the desktop version on the side. So it'll give you 3 options for which polygon you think is mapped wrong. Are you standing in the road and it's the one across from you? Then click on the map and select it. If it's right where you're standing, select geolocation. Or if you have a lat long you want to enter, you can do that as well. You can see that when I'm zoomed into I was zoomed into my map accuracy, it zooms in so far I lose the vegetation information. So zoom out, I can close the panel, zoom back out, have it center on map geolocation, and select that existing team polygon. So I selected this is my house today, Edwards Plateau, Ash, Juniper, Mountain, and Woodland. Well, they've cleared about 3 lots by me, so I don't think it's going to be that anymore. So we're going to change it. Again, it's going to ask you to select the common name and allow you to select from all 403 types across the state of Texas, or do a search from habitat types in your region or within 2 kilometers radius of where you're standing. I'm going to select urban low intensity. It's going to ask for dominant land cover. I'm going to say this is a man-made land cover. And it doesn't give me species to choose from because we are really not in the business of mapping urban landscapes. We are trying to get a handle on natural landscapes across the state. So I'm just going to click the one selection I have, which is there's 50 to 75% impervious cover, buildings, roads, asphalt, concrete. So I'm going to select the amount of woody cover. I have some trees in my yard, so there's 0 to 5%. It's going to ask for comments again. I'm going to say suburban development. And then you can actually link to your camera on your phone, or you can upload a photo if you've previously taken a photo. So I'm going to take a photo. Again, it's going to ask me the size of the area, entire area, partial area. And there's a picture of my back deck where I'm sitting right now. So it's going to ask you to review your data submission and then submit it. And then thank you for your feedback. So once you've done that, you can, in the mobile app, view your data submissions. You just can't view them in a table format. You'll be able to view the polygons sort of in your map view. And you have to do that by selecting TeamGo-Ground Truth observations. Make sure that's selected. If you go to Map Tools and turn off Ecological Systems, they're a whole lot easier to see, which is what I've done, and that's the little polygon I've tried to edit near my house. So if you select it, it'll pop up with the record ID, who submitted the data, all the information they submitted about the data, and so it allows any user to view all of the public data submissions. You can't sort and view the records like you can on your PC or your laptop, but it is another tool. So if you're in the field and somebody else had submitted information about some landscape change, or let's say you're monitoring native prairies and somebody else has already tracked that, you can either confirm by adding another submission or decide, well, somebody's already got it, I don't need to add that one. So a few takeaways from my talk today. We have 2 different versions available. The desktop version, which you can view vegetation data, print custom reports, access ground truth data, and view and submit data for ground truth, just not as easily from the comfort of your office, right? Way easier to do this with the mobile device in the field. And TeamGo, which just launched, and I would encourage you all to do some social distancing and get out and try to use this for us and let us know what you think. Always would like feedback on how to improve it. It's brand new, so I know there's going to be some kinks in entering the data and maybe some ideas you have on usefulness for maybe projects. Again, you can access the ground truth data panel in the mobile version, but you cannot access all of the tabular data in there. So with that, thanks very much for letting me talk today, and I am going to try to put this back up. I will leave the screen up so you guys can see all of the websites. We have the Landscape Ecology website, the Team application for desktop available, and the TeamGo website. I'd encourage you to bookmark these on your, because we don't have a downloadable app, so I'd encourage you to bookmark them for your mobile device so that you can, if you're in the field and you want to try to use it, just go to the bookmark.
So Amie, I wrote down a couple of questions as we went along.
Oh, cool.
So I think you answered my first question there, which was, you know, if folks wanted to try out the TeamGo, they don't go to the Apple Store or to the Google Play. They would just direct their browser on their mobile device to that location.
Right. We're hoping, this is sort of a test run with the citizen science tool. We want to see how it goes, and then hopefully in the next couple of years we might change the format to where it's a downloadable app in a little different format. We built it on sort of a shoestring budget, so we're pretty excited just to launch it and see how it goes.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I certainly know that there's probably places where I would want to use this, but I don't have data connectivity, you know, when you're out on a large
right
pasture in the middle of nowhere. Okay, my other question was about the username and password. If you, that is consistent across the applications, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Mm-hmm. You do not need one for just the team. If you're just going to use the team portion to like print custom vegetation reports, that you can just do. But to use any of the ground truth data entry stuff, then you have to log in.
Okay. And then the last is just a thought. I was like, the first thing that I'll do with this is just log in to see if my lot here is mapped correctly. Is it mapped as urban, or is it still left as a prairie? So I think that would be an easy way for people to kind of try it out.
Exactly.
Okay. So for the attendees, I just want to mention, as I kind of forgot as we were going along, but I did send a chat message. If you have any questions, you can submit those through the questions panel, and I'll see those and I can raise them to Amie. So you can do that now. Randy, are there any thoughts or questions that you had as we went along?
Yeah, I was wondering what you're going to do with some of this data. Are you tracking how things are changing over time or anything like that?
Yes, mostly just tracking. It's difficult to do with the small amount of data we're collecting, but we can definitely do things like track urban change, track reduction of woody species on the landscape. So it'll help us with that. Mostly what we'd like to do is see where we have systemic errors within the map itself that we can easily correct. And then even do in important landscapes, maybe we missed some habitat types that we didn't map, that we could map based on citizen science data that we get. So.
Okay. And I'm sure you said early on, but have you already got the entire state of Texas in there?
We do.
In your data set?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That was about a 7-year project. We're currently looking on statewide updates over the next 2 years if we can get funding, because the map's starting to get a little aged. So our goal was to update it every 10 years. We're about at 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I don't have any questions from the audience, and I can't think of anything else myself. So you did a great job, Amie.
Thank you.
I wasn't even aware of
that
these.
was very interesting.
Cool. Well, I hope some of the users are thinking about using it, or maybe they're using it currently, or just at least viewing it. We would be willing, if you had interest or projects once you get into it, definitely to offer a training once we can all meet in person at some point on how to use these tools. It's one thing to see it on a screen, it's another thing to get out and start using it, right? So.
Okay, I did have one question. It's more of feedback. So from Alice, she says, it was really interesting and a great speaker. So,
Oh, thank you.
all right. Well, with that, thank you again, Amie, for agreeing to meet with us. Thank you, Randy, for going through the business presentation with us.
Sure.
And while I've got you, Randy, just send me a note. It sounded like maybe we need to do a board meeting to maybe either
Yeah,
brainstorm or talk about
right.
for the elections. So just remind me of
Yeah.
that, and I can schedule one of these sessions. And
Okay, we'll tackle that next week.
oh, and before I close, I did have one question for Amie. Is this data shared with AgriLife? Because they do, Kathy McCormick mentions that they publish a landscape change report periodically, and was curious if that data was shared with them.
They should have access to all the data. It's publicly available. I'm not sure if they're using it. I would be interested. I didn't know they had a landscape change report, so I'd be very interested in looking at that. I know the federal government does a landscape change analysis every 5 years, I think, so we use some of that.
Okay, thank you. And then from Charles Newsom, what is the smallest polygon area that it can handle, or do you have a limit?
The smallest I think is I want to say 0.02 miles. If you're going to buffer a point, is about as small as it'll handle. So if you were to like buffer those bird points, I don't think you can get smaller than about 0.2 miles.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. I was just making sure there were no other late ones coming in.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. As a reminder, we will clean this up a little bit, although we didn't have a lot of technical issues to talk about. So once we review the recording, then I will make that available to everybody on YouTube, and we'll include that in our blog post. And Amie, you're welcome. I can send you the raw file if you'd prefer to have that.
Sure. Yeah, fine. Thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
All right.
All
Thanks so
right, thank
much.
you. Thank you, Gary.
Of course. Good night, everyone.
Good night.